So in this video, we're going to walk through a full, complete step-by-step tutorial on how to build a stock watch list within Google Sheets. This tutorial is designed for beginners who have no previous experience with Google Sheets or Excel, and will walk you through slowly each of the steps needed to build this sheet from scratch. What I'm going to do is skip to the future where we can see the finished product of what you'll be building in this video. Then we'll come back to this blank spreadsheet and I'll show you how to build it. So here's our simple but a great framework for a stock watch list. And it has a fair amount of features packed into a compact package. You can input your stock ticker into this column, and it'll automatically give you the live updated stock price, as well as the percent change since a day ago. In addition to that, it also provides the market capitalization of the stock, as well as the 52-week high and low, and the percentage that the current price is off of those 52-week high and lows. You can use a stock watch list like this for help categorizing your investment types, as well as laying out potential buy or sell price thresholds that you might use to enter or exit out of a position. Based on these target buy or sell prices, the watch list will automatically calculate a stock rating for you, determining whether the stock is a buy, hold, or sell, and how far off each of those stocks is from the buy price. In addition to this, you can use this information on the stock watch list to create useful graphics and tools to get a quick visual sense of the information provided in the watch list. So this is a fairly basic version of a stock watch list that I use personally for my own investments, but it is a good start and a great foundation for building your own watch list that you can personalize and customize to your own investment needs. So now that you've seen the end product, the final stock watch list, let's start building it from scratch. So we're building this watch list in Google Sheets, and I'll explain why in just a second. But first thing you'll need to do is log into your Google account and log into your Google Drive. And within your Google Drive, you're going to right click and then select Google Sheets, or you can just click this button New. Once you do that, it'll open a new spreadsheet, and this is where we'll be building your stock watch list. In the upper left-hand corner, you can go ahead and give this a title, and now we can start working on the body. I'm going to zoom in to make it just a little bit easier for us to see. Sometimes when I'm building a spreadsheet, I'll like to frame things out to get an idea of where I'm placing things. So I'm going to select this row up top and these cells by just selecting and holding and dragging, and I'm going to fill these cells gray. And these will be columns for characteristics of each of the stocks in our watch list. By clicking and dragging a selection here, I'm going to color these cells blue. Of course, you can color them whatever you'd like, but I usually use blue for input cells. And this column is going to be our stock ticker column. And this is where we'll have the stock symbols, which will be used by a specific function to look up attributes about the stock. So for example, I've added just a few stocks to this list, and we can now use the Google Finance function, which is a very powerful tool and part of the reason why we're doing this in Google Sheets, which will allow you to get real-time live price data for each of these stocks. To do this automatically with a function, what we're going to do is select cell C4 and then enter equals, which will be the beginning of a formula, and then we'll type in Google Finance. You'll notice it's already popped up in the drop-down list here, so we're just going to double-click on Google Finance, and that'll automatically fill out the rest of the function. Now when you have a function, it'll have this open parentheses, and that's where you put the arguments or the inputs into the function, which is what the function will use to output the appropriate data that you're looking for. In this case, we're just looking for the price. So the first argument is going to be our ticker. Now you might say, okay, well I can just input Apple and get the price, but you end up getting an error here. And the reason why there's an error is because this needs to be inputted as a text. So what you're going to do is actually put quotation marks around the stock symbol to turn that into a text, which then can be used as a proper input. So as you see, we can get the price here. So that works and gets us the price we're looking for, but that's kind of tedious because I don't want to have to type in the ticker every single time. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to use a relative reference. So we'll delete that text that we had in the past. And I'm going to just click this up arrow to minimize that and get that out of the way. What we're going to do is we're going to actually select the cell B4, and that'll reference the value of this cell here, which is just the text for the ticker symbol of Apple. If we hit enter, it'll get the same result here. The benefit of this is you can now copy this formula down. One way to do this is to take the little square in the corner and just drag that down the column. Now you have the live price for all the stocks in your watch list. Another way you can do that is select all the cells you want to copy your formula down to, and then press and hold Control D or Command D if you're on Mac. This will copy the formula from the top of that selection all the way down to the bottom of that selection. So now we'll take another look at the Google Finance function and see what other data we can get from these stocks. The first argument is again the ticker, so we're going to select that cell B4, and then we're going to add a comma, which will allow us to input the next argument. The next argument is called attribute, and it's in brackets, meaning that it's an optional argument that isn't needed for the function to run. But if we click the expand here, we can read about what this attribute is. So in this case, it says the attribute to fetch about the ticker from Google Finance. Well, this doesn't give us a lot of information, so we can always click learn more to learn more about the function. If I move myself out of the way, we can see that selecting an attribute allows us to get real-time data on one of the following things. We've actually already done price, as this is what the function outputs if you don't input an attribute at all. But we also have other data like the opening price for the stock, the daily high, the daily low, and the daily volume or number of shares traded that day. In this case, we're actually going to use the next attribute, which is market cap, or the market capitalization of the stock. So now if I type in, or in this case paste in, market cap as the attribute, what are we going to get? We get a really big number, and that is actually Apple's market capitalization, by roughly 1.4 trillion. To make this easier to read, what we're going to do is go to Format, and then in the drop-down menu, scroll down to Number, then we're just going to select again Number. This adds comma separators, which makes it easier to read, but it's actually too big for the column, so I'm going to double-click on the edge of the column, which will resize the column automatically to fit the largest data in the column. In this case, I don't really want these two decimal places here, so I'm going to click Decrease Decimal Place twice, then I'll resize the column again. This still looks a little big for my taste. What I'm going to do is actually divide this by 1 million, and then I'll just label this as market capitalization in millions. I can make this text wrap around by going to the ribbon and selecting text wrapping, and then selecting wrap. From here, I can adjust the column width to make it a little nicer looking. As with before, you can pick your method for copying this cell down. In this case, we can drag it down here. And now we have the market capitalization in millions for each of these stocks. So this is good. We're getting a little more data here, but what else can we add onto this? Well, a couple other things we can add are the 52-week high and 52-week low for the stock. This can give you a sense of within the last roughly year where the stock was trading at its highest and lowest points. So I went ahead and labeled the two columns that we were working with here, and now we can just fill in the function. So we're going to be using Google Finance again with that ticker over in column B4. And then for attribute, since this is the column for the 52-week low, we're going to type in, of course with quotes to make it a text, low 52, and then end that quotation mark, close the parentheses, and then hit enter. And there we have the lowest stock price for Apple in the last 52 weeks. You can then do the function for the 52-week high in the next column, and then we're going to copy that down as well. By clicking and dragging, I can select two columns at once and simultaneously adjust the width of both of them. Now the text for these cells hasn't been wrapped around because I haven't selected the wraparound text for it. So what I'm going to do is actually select this row here, and I'm going to apply the text wrapping for all the cells in this row. That way I don't have to individually select text wrapping for each new column that we add. Now, of course, if any of these other attributes are of interest to you, certainly you can add them to your own stock watch list. In this case, I'm just going to be adding one more, which will be the change percentage in the stock price since the previous trading day. In this case, I actually want that column to be in between columns C and D, so there's a couple ways I can insert that in there. One is I can right-click on the D column and then select Insert One Left. Another way I could do it is I could select the D column and then hit Control-Shift and then equals or plus. This is the keyboard shortcut for inserting a row to the left. I'll label this column %change, then we'll apply the Google Finance function again, select our ticker, and we'll type in change PCT and quotation mark and parentheses, and we get 0. So if we drag this down, we're getting 0, 0, -1, and 1. So this doesn't really look right. So what's actually going on here is because we inserted this column, it copied over all of the formatting from the cells in this column over here. In these cells, we removed those two decimal places. So in this case, we're going to have to add those back in by increasing the decimal places twice here. So now we have the percentage change since the last trading day for each of these stocks. So in this case for Visa, it increased 1.39% since the last trading day close. To get these properly formatted as percents, you'll need to divide them by 100, which I'm going to do that and then copy that formula down and then click on Format as Percent. This, at least for me, helps it make it a little more clear that these are indeed percent changes. So I'm going to reformat our price column and actually add a little more space there. But we've got our watch list sort of coming together now. We have 5 columns over here and 4 stocks over here. So as for the Google Finance function, that's all I'll be adding in this spreadsheet, but in your own spreadsheet, feel free to add other attributes of the Google Finance function if you so choose. All right, so now that I'm back in the corner, let's actually expand upon these 52-week highs and lows to make it a little more meaningful for us. So in this case, we're going to be creating a function for the percent off of the 52-week high or 52-week low. So for this formula, I want to know how much the stock is above its 52-week low as a percentage. The formula for this would be the difference between the current price now and the 52-week low divided by the 52-week low. Formatting this as a percentage, and I'm going to bring this down to 1 decimal place, we can see that Apple stock is 92% above its 52-week low. Now we want to enter the formula for the percent off the 52-week high. This will be a very similar formula where we're taking the difference between the current stock price and the 52-week high, and then dividing that difference by the 52-week high. Format as a percent, and again we'll bring that decimal place back to 1, and we can see now that Apple is within 1% off of its 52-week high. I'm going to select both of these cells now, and then copy this formula down. Next, I want to actually add another column, so we're going to insert a column to the left here. In this column, I'm labeling investment type. Now what I'm going to do for this column is I'm actually going to select cell E4 and right-click, and in the menu that pops up, I'm going to go down to the bottom where it says data validation. Once you do that, a window will pop up for data validation, and what data validation does, it limits the inputs that you can put in a specific cell. But one very special application of this is it allows drop-down menus for certain cells if you restrict the criteria. In this case, we'll restrict the criteria to a list of items, and then we'll list out the investment types we'll use for the stock watch list. Now keep in mind, you can use whatever types you'd like, but I'm just using these sets for this video. In this case, I just have 3 investment types, 1 long-term, 1 for special situation, and then 1 for speculative stocks. I click Save here, and now I have this little drop-down menu that allows me to select which type of investment this is in the watch list. To copy this data validation formatting down, you can again take this square and drag it down, or you can also copy a cell and then select the cells you want the formatting in, and then right-click and then click Paste Special and click Paste Data Validation Only. But now we have a column where we can qualitatively sort out our investments based on different types, and you can use these same features to create other columns that you'd like to use as well. I'm going to test out with special situation, which is the longest text, and then just make sure my column is large enough so I can see the entire word here. And if you'd rather not have the arrow here or the drop-down menu in that case, you don't have to use data validation at all and can simply type out the categories that you'd like. So what we're going to do now is actually insert 3 more columns into our watch list. So I'm going to insert the first by selecting column D and then clicking Insert Right. Then I'm going to hit Control-Shift+ twice to add 2 more columns. Now what I'm going to add is my buy target price as well as my sell target price. Since these cells are ones that I'm actually inputting the data myself manually into, I'm going to select them and highlight them blue just so I remember and know that these are input cells for me to input data into. So in this case, I can say, let's say I'm planning on buying Apple at $250. I'll need to first reformat all of these so they're no longer percents but are instead numbers. I'm going to remove the decimal places again. So if I have $250 for my buy price, let's say I have a sell price of $330. So I use similar columns within my own stock watch list to help better lay out possible entry points and exit points for stocks after doing my own valuation research and analysis and figuring out where exactly those would be. Feel free to use these however you'd like within your own investment strategy. In this example, we'll be using these target buy and sell prices to inform our stock rating. And what this stock rating is effectively just a very simple buy, sell, hold indicator based on the relationship between the current stock price and our target buy and sell prices. So to do that, we're going to use an if function. In this case, we're going to use a nested if function. So basically an if function within an if function. Not too complicated, but here's how it'll work. So we'll start out is that if the current stock price, so if C4 is less than our buy price, F4, then we want to display buy. This first section of the if function is basically a statement that will either evaluate true or false. Once you add a comma, the next argument is what the function will display if this evaluation shows true. So if it's true that the current price is less than our buy price, we want it to show buy. And just for now, I'm going to say not buy if it is not the case. And this is just so we can test out the function. Okay, so this seems to be working as properly. Since the current price is above the target buy price, it is not a buy. But what we want is actually not just a not buy, we want to know if it's a buy, hold, or sell. So in this case, we're going to open up this function again, and instead of just not buy, we're actually going to add another if function inside here. So I'm just going to type in if, then I'm going to type in an open, and then a close parentheses as well. And then we're going to click on inside of this second if, and we're going to set our new condition. So our next condition will be is that if the current stock price is above our target sell price, then what do we want? We want to indicate a potential sell. So we'll type sell there. And then what is the last case? So the last case is if it's not a buy, so if it's not below our buy price and it's not above our sell price, well then it's somewhere in between, and we're going to call that hold. So in this case, the function is working as properly, as the current stock price of roughly $325 is still below the target sell price, but it is above the target buy price. So we can drag that formula down. In this case, this is showing sell because we haven't inputted any target sell price. So I've inputted some example data here, and keep in mind these are not my actual valuations for these stocks, but I'm just quickly putting some data so we can see how the function works in each of the three cases. In this case, when a stock is above the sell target sell price, we'll see a stock rating of sell, and for buy, it'll occur when our current price is below that target buy price. So this can be just a quick way to look at the stocks in either your portfolio or in the stock watch list on what might be a potential buy or something to look more deeply into if it occurs on that watch list. So now I'm just doing a little reformatting of all these columns. If I select all of these columns and then double click on the edges, it'll automatically reformat and resize the columns to the most efficient size. Okay, so now we've got a pretty solid foundation for a stock watch list, one that you can build upon and customize yourself for your own needs. What we're going to do next is add a couple visualizations, and then we're going to clean this up with a little bit better formatting, as well as add some conditional formatting to help it make it a little more visually intuitive. So for our visualizations or our graphs, we're going to actually add it above our watch list. So I'm going to add a row above. So I'll right click and insert one above. And with this row selected, I'm going to again Control Shift plus and hit that a couple times to give us some room for our graphs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select our tickers, and I'll select even a little more down to leave room for more stocks that are added to the watch list. And then I'm going to hit Control or Command on Mac, and then I'm going to select the column % off 52-week high. Now by holding Control, you'll both simultaneously select the tickers as well as the second column we just selected. And from there, you can go up to the top menu bar and click Insert and scroll down to Chart. This will produce a relatively large chart. We don't necessarily need all of that space. So what I'm going to do is just use these little squares on the side to adjust it to fit within our space allotted. So this effectively gives us a quick chart to see how far off the 52-week high each of the stocks in our watch list is. So potentially this could be a useful quick visual tool to see if a stock is significantly below its 52-week high. You might want to look and investigate why exactly that is occurring, and if it might be potentially to a short-term overreaction from investors selling the stock, but long-term fundamentally, the stock is still a promising investment. And what we'll actually do before creating our second graph is we're going to add another column here, and similar to the % off 52-week low, we're going to do a % off buy price. And this is going to be a formula, so this will no longer be the blue highlighted input cells, but it's just going to be our regular formula cells. So to calculate the % off our buy price, we're just going to do our current price minus our buy price, close parentheses, divided by our buy price. Once we have that, we'll copy this formula down. And one other way to do that, in addition to the two I've shown you already, is to select this cell that has the formula that you want to drag down, hold Shift, and then click the arrow key down as far as you need to, and then from there you can select Control D. So now we have our column percent off buy price. This is telling us how far off we are from our buy price over here. So in the case of Kroger in this hypothetical example, we would be minus 5.9% off, or effectively we're saying that the current price is 6% below our buy price. In the case of Facebook, in this, again, hypothetical example, the current price of $214 is about 30% above our theoretical buy price of $165. Now, if we select our tickers, again, hold Control and select our percent off buy price, we can go back up to Insert, select another chart, and then resize this to fit within our stock watch list. Okay, so this gives us another quick visual tool we can use to get a sense of where our stocks are relative to our theoretical buy prices in a quick visual glance. One situation where this is quite useful is if you have capital you want to add to your stock portfolio. This is a good way to see, relative to where your predetermined buy prices are, what are the relatively most attractive opportunities on your stock watch list. Now, there's certainly many other graphs and things you can use to customize this to your own personal stock watch list. I definitely encourage you to do that, but I'm just going to fill this space in with just a few things real quick. In B2, I'm just going to add a quick title. In C2, I'm going to use the function today just to print today's date. And then while selecting B3, I'm going to go to Format Number, scroll all the way down to More Formats, and then do More Date and Time Formats. And I'm just going to get a fully written date here. And to allow the full date to display, I'm going to select these cells over here and then click this Merge Cell button, and then click the Align button and click Align Left to get it back over to the left side. You could use this space potentially for some summary statistics. In this case, I'll just put one statistic, which will be, in this case, we'll do stock count. Again, I'm going to merge these cells. So in this cell, I'm going to have the formula count, and I'm just going to select column G. I'm going to close the parentheses, and the result that it comes up with is 4. And how it does this is it simply, within column G, it counts all the cells that have a numerical value. Since we'll only have one numerical value in column G for each stock, this effectively counts the number of stocks in our watch list. Now we're almost done. Let me do some quick cleaning up in terms of the formatting, and then let's finally add the conditional formatting at the end. So I'm going to make all my title columns bold, and I'm going to readjust the length of some of these columns. In addition to that, I'm actually going to center all of these. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here into View, and I'm going to uncheck this grid lines. You can keep the grid lines if you like, but for me, sometimes I like having it without grid lines and then just adding borders on my own. To add a border, you can go up to this box here with borders, and then select the border you would like to use. In this case, I'm going to apply a top and a left and a right border. Then I'm going to select all of my column headers, go back to borders and add a bottom border here. And then I'll add my side borders to sort of break up each section of the watch list. I'm going to delete some of the extra columns hanging down at the end. And now it looks a little more cleaned up here. And then we can just clean this up a little bit by adding a border. And let's add another border there. And then make this cell gray. And then finally, I'm going to take these text columns, and I'm just going to center them because I think I like the look of text centered better than left adjusted. So that finishes up most of the general formatting changes. The last thing we'll add is conditional formatting to some cells. And what conditional formatting does is that it changes the format of each cell based on the value within the cell. So one piece of conditional formatting that we'll be adding is in the stock rating. So if we select these cells and then right click and then scroll down at the bottom to conditional formatting, we can see we have a list of options. In this case, the format rules is format cells if there's the condition, and then here's the formatting style you use if that condition is set. So in this case, there's a few preset formatting backgrounds. In this case, it just highlights the cell green, yellow, or red, but of course you can choose your own custom formatting as well. For this example, we'll just be sticking with the default options. In this case, I want it to show green only when we have a buy. So to do that, we'll go to Format Cells If, and in terms of the condition, we'll say, let's see, we'll have text that contains buy. So notice over here, the ones that were hold and sell no longer have that conditional formatting, and the only one is green is buy. If we click done here, that'll be all set, and then we just need to add another rule. In this case, we'll do text contains hold. And for hold, we'll want the yellow background. Click done, add another rule, text contains. In this case, our last one will be cell, and we'll have that be a red cell. All right, so now we have our conditional formatting applied for our stock ratings. So you can quickly see, okay, well, maybe this stock is a buy. Maybe this stock I might consider trimming a position a little bit in the future. So this can be helpful for you managing your portfolio or just getting a better sense of what opportunities are there in the market. So that was conditional formatting based on a specific value, in this case, hold, buy, or sell. But we can also apply conditional formatting to a range of values. In this case, if we highlight the percent change, we're going to right-click that again and then select conditional formatting. And if you look up top, instead of selecting single color, which is what we use for the stock rating, we'll use what's called a color scale. And this allows us to apply a color gradient, which will color the cells based on a range of values. In this case, since we're looking at percent change since the last close, if the stock is down since yesterday, I'd like to see red, and if it's up, I'd like to see green. So we'll select this option, which goes from red to green. So next you have these three criteria: the minimum point, the midpoint, and the max point. This will tell you what the maximum shade of green and the maximum shade of red should be based on this range. By default, it's set to the minimum value in the range, which in this case is minus 1.4%. However, in the context of this, I'd like to have these values fixed. So what we're going to do is we're going to select a number, and I'm going to select minus 0.03, which is effectively 3%. So if a stock is down 3% or more, it'll be the darkest shade of red. Similarly, for the max point, I'm going to set that number at 0.03. So if a stock is up 3% or more, it'll be the maximum shade of green. I can click done, and now it's applied. So if this is too much color for your taste, you obviously don't have to put it in there, but some people like a little bit more of a visual tool that conditional formatting adds. So here's our simple but a great framework for a stock watch list, and it has a fair amount of features packed into a compact package. You can input your stock ticker into this column, and it'll automatically give you the live updated stock price, as well as the percent change since a day ago. In addition to that, it also provides the market capitalization of the stock, as well as the 52-week high and low, and the percentage that the current price is off of those 52-week high and lows. You can use a stock watch list like this for help categorizing your investment types, as well as laying out potential buy or sell price thresholds that you might use to enter or exit out of a position. Based on these target buy or sell prices, the watch list will automatically calculate a stock rating for you, determining whether the stock is a buy, hold, or sell, and how far off each of those stocks is from the buy price. In addition to this, you can use this information on the stock watch list to create useful graphics and tools to get a quick visual sense of the information provided in the watch list. So this is a fairly basic version of a stock watch list that I use personally for my own investments, but it is a good start and a great foundation for building your own watch list that you can personalize and customize to your own investment needs. Overall, I hope you got a lot of value out of this spreadsheet tutorial. If you're interested in simply just downloading this spreadsheet as is, you can do so in my paid investing membership group within the spreadsheet library. However, the point of these tutorials is really to get you active and involved in the building and process of making these spreadsheets so you can really customize them to your own liking. If you want more spreadsheet tutorials like this, please leave a like on this video and subscribe to make sure you'll be the first to know when those are available. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. My name is Michael, and I will see you in the next video.